I remember hearing a story one time of Mother Teresa in one of her chapels with her sisters. And they had a very simple chapel, the altar, and then pretty much an open space. The sisters didn't use pews or chairs or kneelers. They just sat on the floor, knelt on the floor for the celebration of the sacraments and Mass. There was one morning when the sisters were leaving prayer, someone pointed something out to Mother, and she came up and looked at the altar, and she saw that there was a tiny crumb of the Blessed Sacrament left on the altar from the previous day's celebration of Mass. And so she had all of the candles lit at the altar. She had the bell rung to call the sisters back into chapel. And they stayed there in adoration of that tiny crumb of the Blessed Sacrament on the altar until the priest could be contacted to place that into the tabernacle with the rest of the host. Now, some people might listen to that and say, well, it's a little scrupulous of Mother, or it was fastidious of her. Certainly they could have taken care of that in a different way. But think about these women, these missionaries of charity. These are the same women who then go out and work in the streets. And as they go by, notice people cast off by society, lying in the gutters, dying and being ignored by everyone. And they recognize in them the presence of Christ. And they get down on their knees and minister to those who are the poorest of the poor, for sure. And I don't think there is a disconnect between these two moments. In fact, I think the two necessarily go together. It was this saint's ability to see, even in the tiniest crumb, the very flesh of Jesus Christ laying unattended, naked upon their altar, that caused them to hold an adoration period with him, to love his body upon that altar, to give themselves in prayer to Jesus Christ as soon as they recognize him. And it is that same Spirit that causes them to see the people that they serve as Jesus Christ. That this is the presence of Christ. This is someone that we have to get down on our knees and serve. It's that same Spirit that is able to recognize Christ here that will cause us to recognize Christ out there, and vice versa. Because this mystery that Jesus gives to us, the very mystery of his flesh and blood for our consumption, that we are to eat his flesh and drink his blood, when we do that, we are more aware, we're more in tune with where and how we encounter the body of Christ in our lives. It is being nourished at this altar that allows us to go out then in charity and to do good works. And it's after having spent ourselves in our lives dealing with all of the stresses, all of the responsibilities, all of the fears and anxieties, or even the joys and the celebrations, and all of those things that we're grateful for. Whatever we encounter, we bring back here so that we can be fed, be filled where we need it, but also where we can give thanks and gratitude where we ought to. And when we do that, we're nourished once again to go back out and to do it all over again. Mother Teresa and her sisters, as I said before, go out and minister to the poorest of the poor, those whom society has cast off. And Mother Teresa was fond of saying that this is where they found Jesus in a most distressing disguise. And she said, it's not always easy working with the poor. It's not always easy working with those who have been kicked aside by society for so long, because they don't possess social graces. They don't always possess politeness. They're rough sometimes, and rough in the way they deal. Many times And so it's very hard to see in physical appearance and behavior the person of Christ. And yet, because those sisters learned to find Christ here, they were able to find Christ in those disguises. Mother was fond of saying, these people that we meet, whether they are Christian, or Hindu, or Buddhist, or no faith at all, that is Christ to us. And we will minister to and serve Christ right there. But they would not have the strength to do that day in and day out, over and over again, if they weren't nourished here by the body of Christ. It is the same body of Christ in some sense, that when we are filled with Christ's body and become united to him in his body, we're able to then act as he acts in love and charity. It is that gift of the Eucharist that nourishes us there, and it is our service there that brings us back here. Source and summit. This is the source and summit of our lives. It gives us what we need, and everything that we do leads here. As Catholics, we cannot just be traditionally minded liturgists who want to pour all of our energy and time and money and resources into the celebration of the Mass to make it the best thing possible. But at the same time, we cannot be those progressive peace and justice Catholics who only are out there on the front doing things out in society. If we do one or the other, we're an incomplete package. We have to be both. We have to give all of our resources and all of our attention and all of the best that we can do right here, because this is where we receive the body of Christ. This is where Jesus' flesh and blood are given to us, and it is the most important thing we are doing. But we also have to be totally engaged and work in service and in love and for justice out in the world, because that is where we meet the body of Christ, and that is what demands all of our attention, and that is the most important work that we do. One without the other is empty. If we just go be a good person out there without ever coming here, we're nothing more than a secular humanist, and we'll be drawn into the politics and the secular world more and more. If we just worship here and don't put that worship into practice out there, then we're like a whitewashed tomb with an empty religion that does nothing. We are given the gift of the Eucharist so that we can put it into life's practice for eternal life. When Jesus told us that this bread that he was giving us was his flesh for the life of the world, we truly recognize that as such. You know, every century or so since the church's beginning, there's been one or two Eucharistic miracles across the history of our faith. And these miracles are such that either maybe the host bleeds as Mass is being offered, or the wine in the chalice congeals into blood, or the host physically takes on the appearance of human flesh. This has happened several times over the centuries. And living in the age of modernity that we do, when that has happened now, bishops in those areas have been able to physically test what that is that has appeared on the altar. Whether it happened in the year 800, and now we're curious what that was, or as recent as 1971, when a Eucharistic miracle took place in Argentina, under the care of the Bishop Bergoglio, now Pope Francis. And he sent a little piece of that miracle to an institute in California and said, "Tell me what this is." And they sent back a report that what you have sent us is a human tissue, very specific human tissue. It's the muscle, the interior muscle of the wall of the heart, type AB blood. And it appears that that heart was under great stress. That diagnosis, that report meshes with every Eucharistic miracle that has happened in the Church and has been scientifically tested. Always the interior wall of the human heart, always us his heart in the Eucharist. Nothing more, nothing less. And it is alive. And it beats for us. When we celebrate this Eucharist, we receive his very flesh, his heart. Whether we see it with these eyes or with the eyes of faith, we know that's what is on our altar. And that is the heart then that is to beat within us, so that in that same charity we go out and we live that love in our lives. And so it is important, as Mother Teresa demonstrates to us, to give all care and devotion for what we do here, so that we can give all care and devotion for what we do out in our lives. The two are related, for Jesus Christ gives us his flesh, not only for this life, but for life eternal.